You have seen the warriors, but did you know the actual tomb of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, has never been opened? Legends speak of lethal booby traps and literal rivers of liquid mercury. Today, we are looking at why archaeologists are still terrified to open the real tomb behind the Terracotta Army. And here is the part almost nobody tells you. That sealed tomb is not sitting there quietly. It is leaking. In 2020, a team of physicists from South China Normal University, working with Lund University in Sweden and the Emperor Qin Shi Huang's Mausoleum Site Museum, pointed a laser system called a differential absorption LiDAR at an ordinary-looking, tree-covered hill outside the city of Xi'an, in Shanxi Province. The instrument can detect individual gases in open air from hundreds of meters away. What it found above that hill was mercury vapor, at concentrations reaching 27 nanograms per cubic meter, where the normal background for the region sits around 5 to 10. The results were published in Scientific Reports, a peer-reviewed journal from the publishers of Nature. The conclusion was as simple as it is unsettling. Something beneath that hill has been releasing mercury into the air for more than 2,000 years, and it's still doing it today, seeping up through invisible cracks in the rammed earth. That hill is the burial mound of Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China, the man who unified the warring states in 221 BC, the man the 8,000 clay soldiers of the Terracotta Army were built to protect. His mausoleum, located at the foot of Mount Li outside Xi'an, has been a UNESCO World Heritage Site since 1987. His warriors have been excavated, photographed, and toured around the world for 50 years. His actual burial chamber has never been entered. Not by archaeologists, not by tomb robbers, and we'll show you the chemical evidence for that claim later, because it's one of the most elegant pieces of detective work in modern archaeology. No living human being has seen the inside of that room. Now, you may have come across videos claiming otherwise. Videos describing scientists in sealed suits, diamond-tipped drills breaking through, pools of shimmering mercury, and preserved skeletons inside. We want to be straight with you from the first minute. None of that ever happened. Those scenes are invented. The chamber is sealed, fully intact, and untouched. And the documented reality is stranger and far more interesting than the fiction. Because the real story raises 3 questions that almost no documentary bothers to answer. First, where did all that mercury actually come from? Rivers of liquid metal do not appear out of nowhere. Someone had to mine it, refine it, and haul it there, by the ton. Second, if opening the tomb is too dangerous, why not simply drill a small hole and send in a camera or a robot? It sounds obvious. The answer is written in flaking paint, and it takes about 15 seconds to understand. And third, will this tomb ever be opened in our lifetime or anyone's? There is a real answer to that question. It involves a catastrophe from 1956 that China rarely talks about, and a decree from one of the most powerful men in the country's modern history. We will get to all 3. But first, we need to talk about a single paragraph written 21 centuries ago. The paragraph that started everything. Around the year 94 BC, roughly a century after the first emperor died, a court historian named Sima Qian finished the most ambitious history book China had ever produced, The Records of the Grand Historian. Buried inside it is a single passage about the emperor's mausoleum. Sima Qian wrote that 700,000 laborers worked on the mausoleum, that the burial chamber was filled with palaces and towers, with treasures and rare objects, that craftsmen were ordered to build loaded crossbows, rigged to fire at anyone who broke in, and that the great rivers of China, the Yangtze and the Yellow River, were recreated in flowing mercury, set beneath a ceiling painted with the constellations of heaven. For 2,000 years, that was all anyone had. One paragraph, written by a man who never saw the inside of the tomb, describing a room sealed 100 years before his birth. Historians treated it the way you would treat any second-hand legend. Fascinating, exaggerated, maybe invented. Then, in 1981, Chinese geochemists decided to test it. A survey team led by Chang Yong and Li Tong sampled the soil across the burial mound in a grid, point by point, and published their results in the journal Kyogu in 1983. Across the roughly 12,000 square meters they covered, the center of the mound lit up. The average mercury reading across 53 sample points came in around 205 parts per billion. 1 point spiked to 1,440. The surrounding farmland showed a fraction of that. Mercury does not concentrate like that naturally, in that pattern, in that soil. And the anomaly sat directly over the spot where Sima Qian had described the rivers. You will hear that number, 1,440, in nearly every video about this tomb. What you will not hear is where the mercury itself came from. That question, the single most asked question under every documentary on this subject, has a documented answer. Mercury in the ancient world came from one source, cinnabar. It is a brick-red ore of mercury sulfide that releases liquid metal when roasted, and Qin Shi Huang controlled the supply. The richest cinnabar deposits of his empire lay in the mountains of Shenyang in southern Shanxi and in the gorges to the south, where Sima Qian himself records a widow named Qing, one of the wealthiest private citizens of the era, running cinnabar mines so valuable the emperor honored her at court. The logistics of all this flowed through Xianyang, the Qin capital, where Li Si, the first emperor's chief minister, oversaw the bureaucratic apparatus that conscripted labor and coordinated the staggering supply chains the mausoleum demanded. Modern estimates of how much mercury the tomb would need to match the soil signature start at around 100 metric tons. If the account is even half true, the first emperor didn't just build a tomb. He cornered an entire industry to fill it. The warriors standing guard above hint at the same obsession with scale. When farmers digging a well struck the first clay head in 1974, no one imagined what was below. 8,000 soldiers, 520 horses, and more than 100 chariots. Which brings us to a myth we should kill right here. The warriors are not real men encased in clay. Every figure is hollow, built from coiled local clay on mass-produced legs, with molded heads finished by hand so no two faces match. The army is a factory product of genius. The bodies of the real workers lie elsewhere on the site, in graves of their own. But clay soldiers and old paragraphs only tell you what was buried. To see what is down there now, you need instruments. And what the instruments found is the part of this story almost nobody covers. From 2002 to 2006, China ran the largest geophysical survey ever conducted on an archaeological site, under its National High Technology Program, and the mausoleum was the showcase. A team led by Yuan Bingqiang, publishing in the Journal of Environmental and Engineering Geophysics in 2006, layered 8 different technologies over the mound: high-precision gravity measurement, magnetics, electrical resistivity, ground-penetrating radar, and even radon gas detection. They were building an X-ray of the hill without moving a single stone. What emerged underneath was architecture, a buried perimeter wall roughly 460 meters north to south and 390 meters east to west. Inside it, a rammed earth structure 30 meters thick, and at the center, a cavity that should not still exist after 2,200 years. The burial chamber itself, roughly 80 meters long, 50 meters wide, and about 15 meters high. 30 meters below the surface. The gravity and resistivity data say the chamber has not collapsed. There is still open space down there. A sealed room the size of a cathedral nave, holding its breath under a man-made mountain. The survey solved another mystery while it was at it. The local water table sits about 30 meters down, exactly the depth of the chamber. The tomb should have flooded centuries ago. It did not, because in the year 2000, archaeologists traced a massive U-shaped underground dam and drainage channel wrapping the southern side of the tomb, built of rammed earth and stone, designed to catch the groundwater flowing down from Mount Lee and divert it around the chamber. It is still working. A 2,200-year-old piece of civil engineering is quietly protecting the tomb from drowning, right now, while the world above argues about whether to open it. And then there is Mercury, doing something even more useful than being terrifying. It is standing witness. Here is the detective work we promised in the first minute. We know from history that the complex above ground was attacked. Around 206 BC, the rebel general Xiang Yu sacked the mausoleum grounds, and the pits of the Terracotta Army show fire damage and shattered weapons to this day. For a long time, many historians assumed the burial chamber itself must have been looted in that chaos. But Mercury settles the question. If the chamber had ever been broken open, the mercury inside would have evaporated and dispersed within years. Instead, the soil above it is still saturated, and the laser measurements from 2020 show vapor still rising. The poison Sima Qian described has become the seal's own certificate of authenticity. The fires reached the army. They never reached the emperor. Which leaves the question every viewer asks. Fine, don't excavate. But why not drill one small hole and send in a camera? Because the tomb's contents have already shown us what one breath of outside air does. When the warriors came out of the ground in 1974, they were painted in brilliant color: purple, crimson, green, their faces tinted pink. The pigment sat on a lacquer base that had spent 2 millennia in stable, humid darkness. On contact with Xi'an's dry air, the lacquer begins to curl within about 15 seconds. Within minutes, the paint flakes off entirely. Entire excavation campaigns were halted because of it. Now, scale that up. Silk, lacquered wood, bamboo manuscripts, and whatever remains of the emperor himself, in a sealed atmosphere that has reached equilibrium over 22 centuries. A drill hole is not a peak. It is an air exchange. The moment the chamber breathes, the clock starts, and nobody on Earth currently knows how to stop it. Researchers have proposed alternatives. Muon tomography, for instance, uses cosmic ray particles to image dense structures from the outside, the same technology now being trialed in Egyptian pyramids. But even non-invasive scanning can only tell you so much. At some point, if you want to know what's inside, you have to open the door. And that's where chemistry wins every argument. That's not caution as superstition. That's caution as chemistry. But if science explains why the tomb is hard to open, it doesn't explain why China made it policy never to try. For that, we have to leave Xi'an and go to a hillside outside Beijing in 1956. In 1956, China's leading historians won permission to do something unprecedented: excavate an imperial tomb. They chose Dingling, the resting place of the Wanli Emperor of the Ming Dynasty, dead since 1620. The issue took 2 years. When the team opened the underground palace, they found it intact. The emperor and his 2 empresses lay in their coffins, surrounded by more than 3,000 objects, including bolts of imperial silk that had survived 3 centuries underground in perfect condition. Then the air did its work. The silks darkened, stiffened, and crumbled. Wooden artifacts warped and split. Conservation techniques of the 1950s were helpless, and some textiles were treated with chemicals that made the damage worse. The final act wasn't chemical at all. A decade later, during the Cultural Revolution, Red Guards stormed the site. dragged the remains of the Wanli emperor and his empresses into the courtyard, denounced them, and burned them. The bones of a 300-year-old emperor, excavated in the name of science, ended as ash in a political bonfire. The lesson landed at the very top of the Chinese state. Premier Zhou Enlai refused requests to open further imperial tombs, including a proposal aimed at the Great Tang Mausoleum of Qianling, and his position hardened into the doctrine that still governs Chinese archaeology today. No active excavation of imperial tombs. Dig only to rescue when construction or looters or erosion force your hand. The State Administration of Cultural Heritage has upheld that principle for half a century. So when you ask why nobody opens Qin Shi Huang's chamber, understand this. It isn't just fear of Mercury. It's the law of the land, written in the ashes of Dingling. The man who ran the mausoleum excavations from 1998 to 2008, Professor Duan Qingbo of Northwest University in Xi'an, put it plainly before his death in 2019. There is no plan to open the chambers because, in his words, we have no mature technologies and effective measures to protect the relics. The man with the keys said the lock stays shut. And the ground around the chamber keeps proving the policy right, because the rescue digs alone keep rewriting history. In 2024, after heavy rains threatened a satellite tomb first identified back in 2011, archaeologists led by Zhang Wenxiao opened a 16-ton coffin from the mausoleum's western grounds, a burial they link to a son of the first emperor. Some scholars connect this to the prince called Gao in the Old Chronicles, though the succession politics of the Qin court, including the fates of Crown Prince Fusu and his brothers, remain deeply contested. The tomb had never been robbed. Inside lay more than 6,000 bronze coins, jade, armor, and a pair of gold and silver camels, the earliest ever found in China. Jiang admitted his team expected nothing and was amazed. In December 2024, excavators in Pit 2 of the Terracotta Army uncovered something rarer still. A senior military commander figure announced by excavation lead Qin Shi Huang, only about the 10th high-ranking officer found among thousands of soldiers since 1974. And in January 2026, the museum's archaeology director Xiao Wenbin announced 5 fresh discoveries from the past year, including a previously unknown gate between the inner and outer walls, quietly overturning the old map of the entire complex. All of that came from the edges. The center remains untouched. So the last question is the one you came here with. Will anyone alive today ever see inside? Here's the honest answer. Under current policy, no. China's position, restated for decades, is that the chamber won't be opened until preservation technology can guarantee that what comes out survives. Some researchers talk about decades, others say centuries, and the cautious ones say the right number might be never. There are proposals on paper: sealed excavation domes, nitrogen atmospheres, robotic systems, but none has convinced the people who remember Dingling. And public sentiment stands with the archaeologists, more firmly than you'd expect. Spend time in the comments under any video about this tomb, and the most agreed upon words are not open it. They are, leave it alone. It's a grave. Some things deserve their rest. That respect isn't naivety. It might be the most scientifically sound instinct in the entire debate. So consider what we're actually left with, because it's stranger than any invented discovery. A chamber the size of a cathedral, confirmed by gravity itself to be standing open in the dark. A 2,200-year-old dam still steering rivers of groundwater around it. A historian's paragraph dismissed as legend for 20 centuries, now backed point by soil chemistry and laser physics. An army of 8,000 clay guardians who absorbed the fires of rebellion so their emperor wouldn't have to. And above it all, a thin, invisible breath of Mercury rising through the grass at the foot of Mount Li. The only message the first emperor still sends to the surface, the same message every instrument keeps confirming. I am still here. No one has touched me. You've seen the warriors. The Terracotta Army was never the treasure. It was the doorstep. The treasure is a sealed room 30 meters down that science can map but cannot enter, protected first by poison, then by engineering, and finally by the memory of what happened the last time human beings were certain they were ready. Qin Shi Huang spent his life chasing immortality and died of the mercury he drank to find it. 22 centuries later, that same mercury is the reason no one disturbs him. He failed to live forever. His secret might.